All right, Brandi, we need to start with this. What's your business? Where do you work? Who do you help? What do you do?
I am an interior designer based in Clark County, Washington. So it's just outside of Portland, Oregon on the Washington side. I only work with residential, new builds, and commercial renovation projects. So I'm dealing with all the hard surfaces. If you've got rugs, you've got styling, you've got furnishing, not my jams. I've got people for you. I am the one who comes in, brings all the contractors, the trades, everybody gets them on the same page, and we set you up for success that way.
The clarity and the confidence that you just exuded while saying that, have you felt that level of clarity and confidence about your work since day one?
No,
How did you
absolutely.
develop that?
Yeah. So, your program. So when I left design school, and I'm very open about this, I was like the jack of all trades. I'm going to do it all. And the reality was I was pulling myself way too thin. I mean, I was even like doing staging consulting. Can I do it? Yes. Do I want to do it? No, it's not my sweet spot. So I would say I spent the first 3 years really floundering. My pricing was all over the place. My vision for what I wanted to do was all over the place. And around year four, I got invited to design a design studio. And that's where this whole thing kind of started was, mapping out that commercial space. Then I did a hotel, and realized, oh, hard surfaces are where I really want to niche down because I know them well. I know what works. I know what doesn't. Functionality is at the core of everything I do. And so there was like this pull, and I still couldn't get my messaging clear until your program. Since I've gone through your program, I don't doubt what I do. I know exactly who my clients are. I exit the people who are not correct, and I'm able to stay in my lane. And I only work 1 day a week in this business. So I have to be clear. And the fact that I wasn't like, I laugh about it now, but even my project manager is just blown away at how streamlined everything is now. We know who we help and we know who we don't.
So you knew what you wanted to focus on, but you couldn't get your messaging around it. What did you try? Did you try rewriting your own copy or hiring other people, or what did you try?
What didn't I try? No, I think that's probably more accurate. I put everything in the kitchen sink trying to make it work and it just didn't. So that looked like utilizing Canva to try and like rebrand and make things more clear. It, was talking to other designers. It was sourcing things online, rewriting the website, rewriting the website, rewriting the website. I spent so many hours. When I think back, I'm like, holy cow, I spent so many hours trying to like figure out what I wanted to do. And the thing is about the program that I went through with you, there are tangibles that have helped me get there. But I will say the one thing that really shifted is you gave me back my power to say I'm okay with just doing this. I knew it here, but I was so afraid to put that on paper because I was like, oh, well, I can help a lot of people, but I don't want to.
It's really interesting to hear you say that. And I know people will resonate with that. And I have been there myself. Part of why I teach what I teach is because I've been in that mess too.
Yeah.
But you also run another successful company. And you said to me that you didn't have those problems in that company the same way you did as a designer. Do you have any sense of why?
So can we talk about that for just a second? Because going through your program, we're now rebranding my career coaching business
Oh my gosh.
because your program made me realize I was also doing the jack of all trades in that business. Yes, it was more structured because I have 6 other coaching partners that I work with. So the systems that like came over from corporate were in place, but the brand clarity was not. I'm actually rehauling this entire business as we speak because of the work I did with you.
What I'm hearing you say, well, let me say that differently. I teach about business really from two bookends. We talk about the niche, like what do you do and who do you do it for? And then I also talk about the processes and the steps you have to take your client through in order to build a good client, right? The program you took, Lead to Launch, is all about building a good client. What does your intake form look like? What does your design agreement say? Where's the clarity of what is going to happen when in terms of payments and meetings and deliverables and everything. Lead to launch is sort of a sneaky way to help people think about their brand. It wasn't really about that. So I would love to know how you see the interaction of your boundaries and systems and processes and your brand.
Yeah, I'm going to tell you kind of a little bit more of the story that you probably didn't know. So, when I decided to sign up for Lead to Launch, I had already been coaching with you, and you're just amazing. And so I went on that like, I know Rebecca's already made big moves in my business, and I'm going to trust this. I wasn't really sure what I was going to get out of it. Within 2 weeks, I called my project manager and I said, we're shutting the business down until I'm done with this. We're not taking any more clients. Yeah, I don't think I told you that,
No, I didn't know that.
because it was already starting to transform my brain in terms of like how we wanted to do this. So yeah, we shut down the entire time I was in Lead to Launch. We were doing some like marketing and things, but we were not taking on any new clients because I wanted the space. Um, so I'm trying to think, Rebecca, you're gonna have to keep me honest here. We did this last spring. Was that when I was pregnant?
It was right. Yes, you were pregnant. You hadn't told people yet. So it was early,
Okay.
early days.
Yes. So early, yes. Okay. I'm like trying to remember. I've had a baby for those of you. So yeah, I had just found out I was pregnant, and my husband and I had had a really long conversation. I own two businesses. I was working around 7 days a week, which is not sustainable with a newborn or with a child in general. I'm learning. So we knew it had to be clear, it had to be shrunk. And I've always had this desire to go down to 1 day a week doing design. So then got into Lead to Launch. We went through 2 to 3 weeks. I was like, this is it. This is how I can find my voice, find the power to do this. We shut the business down. I went through Lead to Launch. We relaunched the whole brand. And then I took on a couple clients before I had the baby in August. And then I went on maternity leave for 3 months. So the thing I want you to know is going through your program gave me really good clarity. It gave me a very systemized way for my project manager to say, this is a client, this is not a client. And if they're not a client, what resources do we give them? It sets our clients up for success. Literally, I got an intake form about a month ago, and the guy in like the comments was like, I love efficiency, which is what we specialize in. I love clear, direction. I'm willing to wait however long it takes, right? So it's like you're getting the right people in the door.
Yeah.
So the real test though was we did a project that we started when I was very pregnant. I had the baby. Construction happened while I was on maternity leave. So I went back to the house in November when I got back from maternity leave, and it was exactly to plan. Like, and I was never there. I was I was off having a child.
Okay, thinking about if you had tried to accomplish that 2 or 3 years earlier, what would the results have been?
I would have been really stressed while I was on maternity leave. I would have been checking in constantly because I was doubting myself and my abilities, which I don't anymore. Um, that also came through that program. It would have been a lot more stress, a lot more chaos. I don't think my clients would have trusted me as much, because it wasn't as clear. It was just muddy. And so, like literally, when I left for maternity, like I text, they're good friends of mine now. Of course, that's what happens when you have really good clients. But I texted them and I was like, just an FYI, like we had the baby. And they were like, no problem. We know we're in good hands. And my contractors, same thing. They took care of everything. They're the contractors I only work with. Like we really have just like shrunk everything down.
Yeah.
Um, and then to translate that to this other business, what happened is I came back from maternity leave. And I realized with my interior design business, everything is clear. I know exactly who my clients are. I know exactly who they aren't. I know my systems. I know how we work. I know the timeline. And then I came back and I was like, what is happening over here? I thought I had this clear, but I'm getting the wrong clients. So now I'm like reusing that framework to rework that business because I want that ease across the board. I only work 4 days a week now.
That is
So,
incredible. And I'm curious, and you don't have to share this if you don't want to,
yeah.
but I'm sure people are tuning in and going, you work 1 day a week in the design business, you work 4 days a week total, you have baby. Is your, a husband some sort of finance guy? Like, or is this actually making you money?
Actually making us money. No, he is not a finance guy. He works in the public sector. So public servant. He is not necessarily, I mean, he does well, but no, it's all about getting really crystal clear on what my income does. I have a child now. I want to start a 529 for him. I want to start a custodial IRA. Like these are on my roadmap. And by his first birthday, I will have money to contribute to those accounts. And that's coming just from me. That has nothing to do with my husband's income.
I hate that we have to ask that question, but I think it's important to because our field in particular is filled with celebrity designers and with wives whose husbands make a lot of money. And that's not to disparage either of those groups, but there is
Sure.
a different kind of pressure that you feel when you have to be the breadwinner from your business. And as a female, people often make an assumption that you're not a or the breadwinner. You're working for your money and that money matters.
Yeah, absolutely.
Speaking of money, as I recall, and again, you have to fact check me, I think during the program in the last final weeks, you had somebody sign a contract that was one of the biggest projects you'd ever gotten. Is that right?
So that's that project that happened during maternity leave. It was right at the end of the program. So prior, I mean, I'm all about talking about money because I think it's the only way we actually like move things forward, especially for women. So prior to going into your program, I was charging 125 an hour. There's nothing wrong with that. But I want to tell you, I have designed a 12-room boutique hotel. I have done showrooms. I have done a restaurant. Like there are a lot of really big projects that I have done. And the amount that I was charging and the work that I was doing, they didn't equal. Yes, I was charging 125 an hour, but was I actually charging for every single hour? No, because I felt guilty, right? So going through your program, I think that's the other piece of it too, is I got a lot of clarity on my pricing structure. I only offer three services: a virtual consultation, an in-person consultation, and then a full scale like design plan for like a remodel or new build. And the first two, the consultations are flat rate, so it's 250 for an hour online or 590 minutes in person. And then the obviously the full project is going to depend on, you know, the size of the project. But yeah, I made that was a $8,000 project for a $155,000 kitchen.
And one of the big things we talked about in the program was being willing to do price signaling, not being afraid of the numbers. And in fact, that it's kind of our responsibility to be honest about what things cost in our
Yeah.
industry. Was there a shift there in being able to talk about money with your clients?
Yes. So prior to your program, I would be out at a design consultation. The topic of money would come up. And I've worked in finance, so I'm a little more comfortable with talking about money than probably most. But my clients got weird. I got weird. It was just a very bizarre interaction. And a lot of it is because the clients have bias. Is this going to cost me the cost of my house to do, right? Or they don't know what the value is for the price. I mean, there's just a lot of like unknowns in our industry around those things. Now, when someone calls, they've gone through the intake survey. They have answered all the questions where we're gut checking, FYI, this is about what it costs in the industry. And by the time I get there, there's no questions about like they're already on board. So it's just it takes the like weirdness out of the room and I actually get to focus on my craft and what I'm really good at and like making that space what they want it to be versus getting hung up on like dollar bills. They're already on board. Yeah.
All right. So let's assume somebody listening is not going to take my programs. What is one of the biggest pieces of advice or one of the biggest lessons you learned that you feel like somebody could implement at a basic level?
Be more specific than you think you need to be. That is the one thing I have learned through your program. And I'm talking about like who your audience is, who your client is. So many designers are like, I redo living rooms, I redo bedroom, I do all, I'm like, all these things. And if someone's listening to this, I would say, nope, more specific. Nope, more specific. To the point where you can't get any more specific. Like that's actually what you need to do. And then everything else from there will like become as specific as it needs to be.
And I know you've already shared with us some of the specificity in your business, but what are three examples that come top of mind to you where you're like, this is a yes or a no? What feels specific in your company at this point?
Yeah. So We get people in and out of design in 6 to 8 weeks. If you are someone who cannot make decisions or you enjoy the design process, there's nothing wrong with that. I'm just not your designer. If you're gonna like kick out around ideas for months, absolutely not. We're not the people for you. I have resources to send you to. If you are someone who doesn't know what their budget is or doesn't know like where the project starts and ends, we're not for you. We can help consult you into that. But like if you're like, I don't know, I think I want to do this, I think I want to do that, like I'm going to force you to say, are we tackling the kitchen? Are we tackling the kitchen and the laundry room? So that would be the second thing. And then honestly, I work with people who are very busy. So if you have all the time in the world, love that for you, but that's not my phase of life right now. I've got an 8-month-old, I've got 2 businesses, a therapy dog that volunteers. Like, we got a lot going on. I am just someone who is very efficient. I am very organized, and I'm looking for clients who also need that as well so that they don't have to have the mental load when they're trying to do the project.
I love the contrast with designers who would hate that and whose clients would hate that, because I do work with a lot of designers who are like, I'm gonna let this unfold at its own pace and you can make decisions when it's comfortable for you. And for me, I know you and I are really aligned, because
Ick.
mine is a die even hearing that. But the great news is there's space for all
Yes.
of us, but only if we get specific.
Well, there's more business out there than is absolutely possible for me to ever take on, especially only working on Saturdays. Like, there's no way. So that's the thing about other designers. We have a whole laundry list, if you will, of designers in the area and what they specialize in so that I can pass people to them. If I can't take on your project, I don't want you to not have resources. I just know I'm not the right fit.
Which is one of the things that leads to a lot of people saying yes when they should say no, is they don't have a yes to offer people. So pre-preparing those referral lists, that was a big part of my success too, being able to say no when I needed to.
Yeah.
I'm very curious where this all goes next. You know, for some people, they're thinking about scaling and getting bigger, but I hear a lot of signals from you that this is family time in my life. I want to work as little as I can with, I assume, a certain financial outcome in mind. So without putting words in your mouth, where does this go next? What's the next big goal?
Yeah, it's so funny because if you had talked to me, before I got pregnant, I was on a like trajectory of I'm going to open this huge design firm, I'm going to do all these things. And the reality is I just don't want that anymore. I've shifted. I love what I do and I don't ever want to lose that. And I know that I can help a lot of families, and I want this to be a part of my life, but not my whole life. I'm only doing 8 projects a year at the max. And every July I'm taking off. So it's just very sustainable for me right now. My big thing now is I want to make a living that supports my family. I want to set my child up for success long term for whatever those goals are that he wants to do. I want to be able to have enough money to freely give back in my community and solve problems as they arise. And so it's like if I can do 8 projects a year, make a decent living doing it, allow myself, to use that money to do good, and also survive myself and still have time for my family, I'm here for it. I mean, I would really love to do another hotel. I think that would be really fun. I would love to do something in like neurodivergence and like maybe a school system. I used to be a sensory integration teacher, and there's always been kind of like a pull for me there. I'm working with someone in town here who's opening like a kids' play space. So it's more of like, what kinds of projects am I like keeping my eyes out for?
If you're only taking 8 projects a year, you can be very discriminating about which ones are going to fill your soul and your coffers. I am curious if you feel any anxiety around those 8 projects, because you're only going to take on 8 projects. They have to meet a certain financial level.
So realistically, I'm taking on 2 clients a quarter. That's how you get to the 8. And then on average, I would like to bring in between, 10 to 30 grand each quarter if possible. On average, my projects run between $6,000 to $8,000. So I'm right in that sweet spot. Some projects might be bigger, some might be smaller, but our system is so concrete in how we do it that I know a project will be done in a quarter. Like even if it's like a really big hotel, it's still going to be done in a quarter because the way we have our system structured, I mean, if you think, okay, so let's just say rough, let's play easy numbers here. You know, if it's 15 grand every quarter, that's $60,000 a year. And then I have another business.
Yeah. And if you didn't have that other business, then you could take on more projects.
100%. That's the other thing is I'm only working Saturdays. So, or I'm only client facing on Saturdays, but yeah, if I wasn't working 3 days as a coach, that would be a different story.
Yeah. You do have a team member on staff.
Yeah.
How did this affect them?
Oh gosh, Sierra would hug you. Um, so Sierra, she doesn't work for me full time because again, we only work Saturdays. So she's an independent contractor who's a project manager. The one thing that she said was, you were already really structured going into this, and now she has no questions. This year, her goal for us is to do more marketing. I just had a meeting with a magazine on Monday and she organized all of it. They knew everything about my business. They knew how we operated. So really all the magazine editor did was spend 5 minutes on the call and was like, "Hey, we think we want to feature this story. Can you get me the marketing materials for it?" Okay. So then I outsourced that to Sierra. Like literally it was 10 minutes of my time and she took care of everything.
I know a lot of business owners stretched so thin because they can't figure out how to delegate. Sierra said you were already pretty structured. What were some of the biggest shifts that affected her the most in the pre structure versus post structure system?
Yeah, so pre-structure, our online booking was in place, the email systems, like it was a lot of the behind the scenes system stuff that was already in place. Now, though, she has the context of who we work with, who we don't. Like, I actually don't review any of the applications. She reviews them all because she knows who our clients are. If something interesting comes in, she'll, ping me about it and be like, "Hey, this is a one-off." Um, we haven't had that happen yet, actually. But she knows she can come to me if there is. I send her all the content for our blogs. She knows my voice in the newsletter. She doesn't have to come to me anymore. Like she knows what fits and what doesn't. And you asked who else is on my team. I also have a marketing manager. So she does all of our social media. So Hannah also has extreme clarity because she goes into our folder and she's like, "Here's everything they do. Here's what they don't do." And then Sierra looks at those posts and says, "Hannah, that one's going to miss the mark. It's going to bring in the wrong clientele. Let's redo that." Like it's
Incredible.
amazing. I truly, outside of the client facing stuff and like the client work, I'm really not doing much these days.
You've empowered your team to be able to make independent decisions. They have more responsibility. They probably feel more fulfillment, less frustration.
And I trust them. Like, Sierra offered to go out to a client's house and drop off like we have like a little box that we deliver and stuff. And I'm like, "Yeah, go." I have no questions at all. When I was on maternity leave, she checked in a couple times to be like, "Hey, do you want me to handle this?" "Yep, please take care of it." I
Yeah.
literally didn't do a dang thing when I was on maternity leave because she handled it all.
Circling back to the before versus the after, you had done a lot of important work. You had said, I tried writing my own copy and being on Canva and everything. I have found that that work isn't necessarily lost work. It does take some time to figure out what you're trying to build. If there are people out there listening who are still doing a lot of experimental spaghetti throwing, I assume you would be like, you're still doing good work. You're not wasting your time. Is that right?
Oh, 100%. None of that work I did was in vain. It's just, I think the way I recapped it at the end of Lead to Launch was, I'm 5 years in business and I'm finally crystal clear. Like truly, my business is not changing unless something radical happens. It's set, it's ready, it's done. And I have ADHD. So for me to say that, like, that's pretty impressive. But the other part of that is when we were going through the program, because I had had 5 years of exploring on Canva, writing my own content, creating systems, figuring out what worked, figuring out what clients didn't, I do think I had a little bit more of an advantage compared to some of the other people in the cohort. Meaning I got to my answers faster because I had done all that wrestling and that experimenting and trying to figure it out, that when you asked the pointed question, my gut knew this is the answer I want to say out loud, but I'm afraid to say it. And your program created such a like supportive space for us to say the thing that we wanted to say. And then instead of saying like, well, I don't know if that'll work, it was more of a like everybody in the cohort was saying that will work. Let's figure out how to make it work. So, I mean, your homework, your session, like everything that you did was so strategic. And I'm a pretty strategic thinker. I mean, Rebecca, we've like bonded over this, but you helped me like get even more strategic in my business. And that was like worth its weight in gold. But then the other part that you can't really quantify was the permission that you and the rest of the cohort gave me to do business the way I wanted to do it. You didn't force me into a box. You didn't tell me this is how it has to happen. You were like, trust your intuition and then we'll make it happen. And I can 110% say I am so proud of my business right now. It is a full reflection of who I am. I don't hide my two businesses anymore. They both exist in this space, which is a huge thing for me. And I'm proud to be an interior designer. And you know that before that program, I struggled so hard because I'm not, I mean, I wear like neutrals and like I don't have flashy earrings because I have a baby who will rip them out. Like I show up in sneakers because let's be honest, I've tore my calf one time and now I'm terrified of heels. Like there are things that I'm just like, I wanted to be able to show up and be me. And you really were like, yeah, that's welcome. And now my clients, like I had a client 2 months ago, we were in her house and she was like, yeah, I like read your bio all about like how you show up with iced coffee and jeans and sneakers. And we were like, yeah, we can work with this girl.
Oh,
And I was like, yeah, that's who I am. I I showed up at a client's appointment with spit up on my shirt, didn't realize it until I got there, but they were just like, it's cool. And I'm like, this is amazing. I don't feel like I have to pretend to be somebody I'm not anymore. I just get to be me.
so it sounds like at one point you had an idea of what a designer looked like and wore and behaved. What was your vision of what that was supposed to look like?
Full disclaimer, if you're a designer out there and this is you, there's no shade. It's just, this is what I had in my head, and I am just not that girl. I always thought designers had to show up with name brands, very bold, colorful, like exotic, eye-catching outfits. Like I will be the first to tell you, my wardrobe is not a skill set of mine. I will make you the best damn kitchen you've ever seen. It will be a showstopper. You will love every second of being in that space. It's going to look good. It's going to feel good. It's going to function well. Clothing, whole different skill. I'm actually like saving up right now to go work with a stylist because I'm like, this does not equate. And so for me, I felt like a fraud because I was like, well, if I can't design my body the way that I design a space, am I even a designer?
Mm.
Yes, I am.
Oh, good. The answer is
No,
yes.
they can be different skills. I just didn't know that. So
And they
yeah.
really are. Just like graphic
Oh,
design is a totally different skill, website design, it's all using the same fundamental skills, but the application is so different. I'm so pleased for you, Brandi.
thank you. I'm genuinely like, I will shout it from the rooftops. If I would have gone through your program 18 months to 2 years in, my business would have been so much more successful. And I
And,
wish I would have done it
and
sooner.
what do you mean by successful? It would have been more successful in what ways?
So I would have had brand clarity earlier on. I wouldn't have. I have some client horror stories, okay? When you go to a client's house and they get in the shower during your appointment and you have to stand out in the driveway for 45 minutes, like red flag. Like I've been through some rough clientele, and had I gone through your program, I would have like skirted some of that. Financially, it would have been way more successful. I wasn't taking home an income in this business for, I don't know, 3, 4 years. Could I have been taking home an income at that point? Yeah, but I didn't know what I didn't know. Um, I would have felt more confident in my own skin, and I would have shown up in um designer spaces more authentic and more myself, and I would have created community faster. I really was in a scarcity space of like, oh, they're gonna judge me, they're gonna whatever. And now I am not in that space. I meet regularly for coffee with Jamie, who is in our cohort because she lives here locally. I know I have resources and community that are here to help me on my rough days, that are here to cheer me on, that are here to take clients when I don't have capacity. Like, it's just so much healthier, like really.
Wow.
And I would have, and I think this is the biggest piece. I think because I wasn't authentic, my clients also put on a show. And the clients I've had in the last year-ish, um, like literally my client for that kitchen project through maternity leave, they have a pool in their backyard. They're inviting us over this summer to swim with the baby. Like, I mean, I'm gonna get in a bathing suit in front of my clients. Like, let's talk about that, right? Like, but I have fostered an environment where my clients get to show up fully. They get to be vulnerable and say the things that they really want. And I'm able to help them create, like my client Jess said, the dream I had. Like, she is so happy in that space. And she's amazing. She's a female pilot. I went over to like drop off some stuff after maternity leave, and she had like a whole kitchen. She's like a 10-foot island that we put in there. The entire thing is filled with female pilots from this organization that was started by Amelia Earhart. This is the stuff that's so cool. I get to help make spaces like she could have never hosted before. And now she has a room of women from all different ages who are like pioneers in this industry, gathering around her island, sharing food, holding my child. Like, I found the right people. And now I'm able to give them spaces that allow them to live their best life. Think about that, like 12 or 15 people there, like they all bonded in her space that I helped create that would not have been capable of doing that before. Like, that's the stuff that matters, you know?
And you're just glowing while you talk about it too.
Oh, her kitchen is my favorite. I want to just like sleep in there. It's fine.
Well, 10-foot island, you probably could fit.
I could, yeah. Her son said that for his graduation party, he wants to cover the entire thing in sushi. And I was like, that is going to be an expensive party, but more power to you. So, yeah.
I love it. Is there anything else you feel like you want to share?
Your work, like all the prompts in the homework, I was just realizing I used that last week. Like creating this like 60-page brand book. And part of it is like you have to put in prompts about who your ideal client is. And I was like, wait, I've already done this work and I haven't changed it. That I think is like the most dramatic thing about your process. I mean, I've gone through a major life shift. You would think I would want to revisit, and I have zero interest in revisiting it. And I don't think I ever will. Like, every client we've worked with since I've gone through your program has been perfect. If anyone out there is questioning, like, if they want to join the program, please don't hesitate to reach out. I will tell you all about my experience. I know that it's an investment in your business, and sometimes you tend to like push those things down. It will pay for itself in tenfold. I paid for the program while I was going through it because I got that big job.